Oh yeah, that sounded juicy! Hey guys, John here from Sonic Drive Studio. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to the channel. I am once again very excited because today we're going to take a look at this wonderful amplifier by Invaders Amplification from Belgium. This brand has been on my radar for quite some time, so I'm just very stoked to finally be able to share a review of one of their amps with you. So this amplifier right here is called the 950. Badass! And it's basically their high-gain flagship amplifier, I guess you could say. It's a 50-watt 2-channel amplifier, but it does a lot of cool things. It has a lot of cool voicing switches that we'll get into. But as you heard in the intro, this amplifier is just great for heavy rock and heavy high-gain stuff. And it has a very raw and wild tone to it, so that's very cool and quite unique. And the intro track was done with my Les Paul Custom into the drive channel, by the way. But anyway, this amplifier was made by hand in the Invaders shop in Belgium. And one thing that's really cool about Invaders is that you can go to their website and really customize the amplifier to your liking. So you can choose the Tolex, the colors, and everything. There are a lot of cool options, so definitely go to their website to check out what options you can choose from. And the one that I have here has this very nice and sleek, sort of stealthy black look. Really cool. Now I believe that the circuitry in this amplifier is sort of loosely inspired by that SLO sound, but it certainly does its own unique things. This amp has two EL34s in the 50-watt power section, but there's a switch in the back that lets you scale it down to 35 watts. We also have a high and a low input here, and I always use the high input basically. We have a normal and a drive channel, and the normal channel over here does clean tones as well as crunch tones. And there's even a switch, a crunch switch, that basically adds more gain, which is great for your classic rock crunch tones, obviously. And both these channels also have an individual bright switch, which is also cool. I tend to have my bright switches on basically all my amplifiers on at all times because I tend to use a lot of humbucker equipped guitars. And with humbuckers, the bright switches add some nice cut to the tone and some nice clarity. If you primarily tend to use single coil equipped guitars, perhaps the sound will be a little bit better with the bright switches set to off. Now the drive channel has a deep switch as well, which is a very interesting voicing option. It kind of makes the sound more fuzzy and more sort of fat and thick, which is very suitable for sort of genres like stoner and doom. So it makes the drive channel sound much more filthy and nasty than it already sounds, so it's very interesting. Now the amplifier has a shared 3-band EQ with a presence control over here. And on the back of the amplifier, we also have a depth control, which is very nice. And then we also have individual master volume controls for each channel over here. And on the EQ section over here, we've got these 3 voicing switches, which are very nice for sculpting your tone. On the left side, we have the notch switch over here. According to the website, this does something to the curve of the bass frequencies. And with one flick of the switch, you can basically make the amplifier sound a bit more American as opposed to a more British tone. And when you turn this on, the overall feel and response of the amplifier changes a little bit. It's not so much the overall EQ curve, but the response of the low end is different. It sort of feels more scooped and there's more emphasis on the low end. So it's a very powerful and cool feature to have on an amplifier. The sweep switch over here lets you add more mids, and that's basically a wide bell in the 500 Hertz area-ish. It just gives the amplifier more mids, which can be great for lead tones, or for more classic rock tones. And the ball switch all the way to the right over here adds saturation to the tone. So that compresses the tone a little bit and adds a little bit more gain as well. And when you enable this switch, the volume of the amplifier gets a little bit lower, just as the Friedman Double J Jr. It's kind of a similar feature to the JBE feature on that amplifier, I think. On the back of the amp, we've got a foot switch input, and the amplifier does come with a custom foot switch, by the way. And that foot switch lets you turn on or off the effects loop and change the channels. We have various speaker outs, the depth control, the effects loop, and the power scaling switch, and that's it basically. Alright, so I really want to show you guys what this amplifier can do and what it sounds like. Of course, you already heard the intro track, but we're going to dive a lot deeper right now with a bunch of different guitars. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to do a little segment where I twist all the knobs and enable all the switches so you can hear what everything does and how the controls interact. For all the tones in this video, I'm running the amplifier into my RedSeven Amplification Amp Central reactive load as per usual, and then into OwnHammer impulse responses, which will be listed during the musical segments. And let's go ahead and start with some clean tones, again with my Gibson Les Paul Custom on the neck pickup this time, through the normal channel with some clean sounds and with the bright switch turned on. On the EQ, all the voicing switches will be turned off, and I'm going to run my Laney Secret Path Reverb through the effects loop as well for a little bit of ambience. I like a little bit of grit on my clean tone, so I didn't dial it in to sound completely clean. There's a little bit of overdrive going on there, but of course this amp does enable you to get very clean, pristine clean tones as well. Just turn down the gain a little bit more for that. Okay, let's check it out right now. Nice! So that's a quite dynamic and responsive clean tone right there. I really like the range of gain that the normal channel has to offer. Of course, additionally with the crunch switch as well, which we're going to check out right now. Let's go for some sort of classic rock tones using my Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s with the Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge. And for a more vintage tone, I'm going to turn on the sweep control over here, and that's going to add a lot of those warm mids. It's great for that sort of mid-range bark that I love in my classic rock tones, basically. And the gain control will be set to about 3 o'clock, again with the crunch switch on, and of course the bright switch turned on as well. Okay, let's check it out right now. Awesome! Those were some very nice crunch tones indeed. This amp has such a cool and wild character to it that I really love. Now let's move on to high gain territory, and let's go and check out the drive channel, and we're going to start with some rock riffs using my Yamaha Revstar Standard. Again through the drive channel with the bright switch turned on, and all the voicing switches on the EQ will be turned off. Let's check it out. Cool, that was a very nice and thick sound with a nice amount of sizzle as well. Sort of loose and wild, but that's what I love about this amplifier. Now let's move up the ladder and go for a little bit more of a modern tone with my ESP LTD Phoenix Arctic Metal with the active EMG pickup in it. And let's see how well this amplifier handles active pickups. Again, with the bright switch on the drive channel turned on, and this time I'm going to enable the ball switch on the EQ here for a little bit more saturation and compression. Okay, let's check it out right now. That was great! Definitely sort of rectifier E. It does remind me of that sound with a nice and sizzly top end and that sort of fat low end with a somewhat scooped mid-range. Loved it. So as I said, this amplifier does have a sort of wild, raw and sort of loose tone to it, which I really appreciate, to be honest. It does make the amplifier more versatile in my opinion. So it's not super modern, tight like an EVH for example. But the fun thing is that you can get those tones out of this amplifier simply by putting a boost or an EQ pedal in front. With those really tight and modern amplifiers, you basically can't really untighten them, if you know what I mean. But with this amplifier, you get that big and fat sound, as well as the tight tones if you add a pedal. So that's what we're going to do now, just to get more of those modern metal tones out of this amplifier. And for these tones, we're going to use my ESP LTD Phoenix Arctic Metal, but this time the one with my passive Seymour Duncan distortion pickup in it, so that's a different tone. And for the boost pedal, I'm going to use my Maxon OD808, again through the drive channel of course. And again with the bright switch turned on, but this time for the voicing switches, I'm going to enable the notch switch over here for that fatter and more American low end response. And that switch really complements the boost very well because the boost tightens it up and this switch makes sure that the low end stays nice and fat. All the other voicing switches on the EQ will be turned off. Okay, let's check it out. Whoa, that sounded absolutely huge! And the boost did a great job of tightening up the amplifier quite nicely. Even though it sounds more compressed and tight, it still has a very cool and unique and wild sound to it that I really enjoy. Now let's go lower with my PRS mic Mushok Baritone, tuned to B flat. That guitar has the Dimarzio D-Activator pickup in it. Let's use the Maxon OD808 again for the boost, but this time, to suit that lower tuning and to give it more definition, I'm going to turn off the notch switch again. So all the voicing switches will be turned off again, aside from the bright switch, which is always on in my case. Okay, let's check it out. Very nice, that sounded huge, but still with plenty of definition. So this amplifier works really well with baritone guitars, especially when you put a boost pedal up front. Now let's go even lower with an 8-string guitar. My ESP LTD SC608B, the Stephan Carpenter 8-string model with the Fishman pickups in it. And for these tones, I'm going to use my Lichtlaerm Audio Aesahaettr boost pedal through the drive channel. And for these tones, I'm going to turn the notch switch back on. All right, let's check it out right now. Amazing. I really love how that sounds. Nice and big, but again with plenty of definition. Really cool. Now what I'm going to do is loop some riffs through this amplifier, some riffs that I recorded with my Les Paul Custom, and then I'm going to twist all the knobs and, turn on and off the voicing switches so you guys can really hear how all the controls sound and how all the voicing switches sound. And this will go through the chunk mix from the OwnHammer 412 ORNG Essentials pack. Okay, let's check it out. So that was the awesome Invaders Amplification 950 Badass. For more information about this amplifier and their other amplifiers, go to invadersamplification.com, and also to find out what sort of customization options they offer. And of course, a huge thanks to the guys over at Invaders Amplification for sending me this. I really appreciate it. It rocks. So I think this amplifier is great. It sounds huge. It sounds raw. And again, it sounds kind of wild, which is really cool. And it also has a lot of cool voicing switches and tone shaping options on it, which I really appreciate. So I definitely recommend checking out these amplifiers for yourself. That's all for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, as that really helps the channel out. I'd hugely appreciate that. And you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers! Invaders!